And I remember thinking, I do think it's going to get canceled.
Hi there, welcome to this special episode of Places You'll Scry. I'm here, your host Pyway, and we're here to preserve parts of TCG history, specifically with Ben Pflughoeft, the final American champion of Duel Masters from 2006. So it was 19 years ago. And his buddy Richard Fan is here, who also played a lot of Duel Masters. It'd be fun to bring him on camera and ask them some questions about their memories and how it impacted their lives. I just want to open, what are your favorite memories playing Duel Masters?
I think maybe my first and my last tournament experience is really special. My first tournament was actually at the Mall of America, and it wasn't really a tournament. It was like a big launch event, and there was like running small, like best of 3 rounds in one zone, and there was sort of more like competitive tournament zone, and there was also a third zone where you could play a Kaijudo master, and it was like a game designer. And I don't know if he was really like a game designer or it's part of the small American team. I don't know exactly what they were, but they're like people who work from the company, and there was like 3 of them. You could stand in line and wait to play them. Did you go to that?
I'd go. I wish I did.
Yeah. They had giants. I think they had that big red robot guy, like a big statue of him. Do you remember the 4,000? Yeah.
Rothfuss?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was my first experience, and that was a lot of fun. What's your favorite memory?
God, just those tournaments at, like the local card shop. They are really fun. Like just meeting people and, just finally playing the game outside the house.
We went to a lot of 5 Civilization tournaments together. Yeah. And those were held, I don't know, once every quarter maybe? Or
once every set.
Once every set. Yeah. And so I'm from Winona, so I would come up and meet him at Dreamers in St. Louis Park, and we played the 5 SIP tournaments.
For those not in Minnesota, that's like an hour drive for 2 hours?
It was like 2.5 actually, because the card shop was kind of like on the western side. So that's about 2.5 hours.
Wow. And so y'all met playing Duel Masters?
Yeah.
You're still friends?
Yeah. We met when I was probably like, I don't know, 10 or 11. And I'm almost 32 now. Yeah, so about 20 years.
I remember advertisements for the Mall of America thing. I was 7, so my parents were like, no, you can't go to that. I was like, I think I'm in their ideal age range. I love tournament play at local game stores, and like as a tertiary space where you can just go meet people, and it's like, if you have cards, you don't have to really spend a lot of money to be there, and it's not like alcohol dependent. Like if you're older, like it's a tertiary space where you don't have to go drink. What about your last tournament? I know you touched on that.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was the one where I won the championship. So that was a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
And that was in Charlottesville, South Carolina. It was fun because I had a really strong deck, and actually I borrowed, so this is some of the highlights of my deck here. It was like a Bomb Bazaar based deck, and at that time the metagame wasn't really super publicized or like shared widely. So I think if there had been a deeper, more sophisticated metagame culture, a lot of people would have been playing this deck, but I was like one of the only ones, maybe the only guy who had this deck, and I kind of crushed it. I don't know if I was that good. I think I was pretty good, but I think it was just like the right metagame call for the tournaments. Yeah. And my 4 Bomb Bazaars were actually loaned to me from my friend Richard. So I credit him with the victories.
Mailed it all the way to the grave. Yeah. Even hours.
Yeah. So it was a fun tournament because I did extremely well, and then the prizes were like a couple of boxes of the new set. And we went to the hotel afterwards. My dad, me, and a bunch of the guys in the tournament, because it was pretty friendly. Yeah. They like drafted the boxes. I stayed really late. That was a really special event, but that was the last time I ever played it like competitively.
Those packs from after Duel Masters 10, like the Bomb Bazaar set, are like $1,000 each now. Yeah, Bomb Bazaar, Soul Swap, and Ganta are all banned in the current Duel Masters because they're so good. Yeah. So yeah, Duel Masters, in case anyone watching didn't know, is still very popular and supported in Japan. It still sees regular set releases. I don't know if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering has something called Magic Arena that you can play pretty well. They have something like that for Duel Masters. Yeah, you can still play it when you get home because there's a English translation mod. Wizards don't take down the English translation mod. What do you do now professionally, and how would you say a background of playing Duel Masters and trading card games may have impacted that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So you mentioned Magic the Gathering. We both played Magic the Gathering too. I've actually started playing Magic before Duel Masters. So just for some context, I've been playing card games for a long time. Duel Masters and probably Magic specifically helped me a little bit, mostly probably in like becoming more comfortable talking to people and socializing. I kind of have like a data analyst type job right now. And I think an important skill for that is actually more so just like the soft skills of talking to other business partners or like scoping out requirements and having conversations and a lot of public speaking and like leading calls. I would have been pretty good with number stuff either way, but Duel Masters and Magic and like going to tournaments helped me be better just hanging out and talking to people.
Yeah, in all career development, we all need some form of play. Like,
Right.
At the end of the day, how about you?
Ben got me in the Magic during the Ravnica City Heroes walk.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, about to like Boros or Red White Star decks smashing together and Stefan. And when Ben was done using my Bombazars, he nailed that's me here. He nailed me like a Rakdos or Red Black deck.
gosh, can you believe that they've done so many crossovers, but they haven't done a Duel Masters Universes Beyond? Like Gavin and Mark Rosewater designed Duel Masters. Like when I was 7, I played Duel Masters, and then I played Yu-Gi-Oh, and then later in my life, I found Magic in college. That kind of brought me back to Duel Masters.
Yeah, just
Would you say professionally playing card games has impacted your life?
I don't like so. But maybe like they're like just like how to do like quick nap or like
Stress relief, something to look forward to.
have a poker face. Like
Do you remember when Duel Masters was discontinued in America, and what was that like for you?
Yeah, I remember after I won the championship, there was a website called Pojo. I don't know if it exists anymore.
yeah, since that's where you post in deck lists and stuff.
Yes, some guy from Pojo reached out to me for like an interview, and the interview was all about like, do you think Duel Masters is going to stick around? Because there was already like a general sense of it winding down, I guess. And so I remember that conversation, and I remember thinking, I do think it's going to get canceled. I don't remember why exactly, but there was like a general sense of like this game's losing support and becoming less popular. I wasn't super disappointed though, because I had started playing Magic more too, honestly. And also I was getting more into video games. Eventually I dropped Magic for World of Warcraft full time for like a decade. So it didn't break my heart, honestly, but I remember being a little bit confused and like not understanding the economics of the philosophy about why the game was dying down. There wasn't like a huge backlash, it was just kind of happening. It was kind of like a quiet, pretty well the whimper, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't go to that Final Five Cities tournament. I think so. And after that, it's just over.
Well, Pojo is still around, and there's a ton of posts of people being like, I'm done playing Duel Masters. I want to sell these for Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
You know what was really fun with Mojo? Like the trade forums.
Yeah.
You're like, I have this. I'm looking for this. DM me.
Those are still up from like way back.
Yeah, the website I used a lot was DM Realms. Did you ever go to DM Realms?
I do remember it.
That was the main one I used, and that was like a Realms forum with different games dedicated to it. But DM Realms was where people would talk about like upcoming set spoilers or a little bit of like metagame discussion or just like general. It wasn't a super live forum, but of all places I knew, that was like where the most Duel Masters discussion was happening.
Currently, there's a Discord for the IDC, which is the International Duel Masters Cup. And it's usually just Duel Masters 1 through 12 with Bombazar banned. But it's just an ongoing play community, and they have a strong trading community as well. But also there's an American Duel Masters League, and we're actually hosting a meetup at Gen Con this year, 2025. Places You'll Scry is a show to raise awareness about tertiary spaces, the loss of play experiences in the wake of rampant capitalism, and also to uplift nonprofits like libraries. So if you're watching this and you want to make a donation to a library, please take a look at the books that you haven't read in a while. If they're in pretty good conditions, consider bringing them to a local library. They need a lot of support right now. If you have the time to volunteer at a library, please consider doing that as well. And if you have Magic bulk, send it to Magic Kids, which is a nonprofit in Rochester, Minnesota that mails to all 50 states as well as other territories like Guam. They'll send kits of Magic cards to schools so that schools and libraries can have their own Magic clubs completely for free. Do y'all have any nonprofits you want to plug?
Oh, that sounds like a good one to me. I did math core through AmeriCorps for like a little bit at a middle school in St. Paul. It was like a game club, and I remember they would get like free games donated. So I think the idea of donating cards for that Magic nonprofit seems like a great idea.
Go Magic Kid.
And if it costs too much for you to mail your bulk cards, I have a friend that teaches. I just gave him a Kowalski's bag full of bulk. You can also do that too. If your friend happens to teach at a school and kids like cards at that school. How do you feel about the direction Magic is going in? There's going to be a Final Fantasy set, a Spider-Man set, an Avatar set. How do you feel about Universes Beyond?
It might be controversial that you remember the Walking Dead crossover.
Yeah.
I actually was in support of that.
You were?
Yes, because I knew where it was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a Walking Dead person. I mean, I kind of know where they're going with this.
Yeah.
I mean, if any Magic players, like, if you ever enjoyed a crossover, that's kind of where it all began.
Yeah, I did like those.
Kingdom Hearts is my favorite video game franchise.
Oh, yeah?
And it's kind of like, it was based on a crossover.
Yeah.
So, like,
I was hoping they'd have like a Chrono Trigger or Kingdom Hearts card in the Final Fantasy set, but maybe down the line. How about you, Ben?
Sorry, what was the question?
How do you feel about the direction Magic is going? And in general, card games. I mean, Pokemon sold 1/5 of their lifetime cards in the last year.
Not as into the Magic the Gathering Universe Beyond sets or what are the things you can like pre-order that are just like alternate arts, secret layers? So those things to me feel a little bit like, it kind of rubs me the wrong way, but if it's someone else's cup of tea, that's fine too. The sets that are like totally outside of like the original fantasy flavor, maybe I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon about, where it's like, I don't know. I kind of like the wizards and the dragons.
Yeah.
So.
And that's like one of the things is like Universes Beyond is like really framed. It's like our testing groups really like this and it makes a lot of money, so we're going to do it. I get that. I hear that. But also like things can be significant and creatively rich without being as profitable. And I know Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are for-profit companies, but like, look at Duel Masters. We're sitting here in a room because of Duel Masters, and Duel Masters was considered a failure in America.
I feel like Duel Masters at its end, it probably still sold enough that we probably could have kept going. Like, there's no games today that probably sell less than Duel Masters, but they're still going.
Yeah. One thing I heard was that a lot of its sales came out of the pockets of Magic. That's not entirely substantiated, but that's...
So the two games were potentially sort of cannibalizing each other, which is why...
You may coexist in Japan.
Yeah, they do. In fact, there are times when Duel Masters outbeats Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, and Magic in Japan, especially as a digital card game. It's very popular as a digital card game. I really like Universes Beyond, but they have to at least have some things there for the Magic fans, for the contemporary Magic.
As long as, you know, like, in-universe sets exist.
Yeah.
Arcade Dragon's Store, and we're Edge of Eternity.
Yeah, and we're going back to Lorewood. I never thought that would happen.
That is a hipster favorite.
Yeah. Infamous for like not selling well, but we're going there, so props to Wizards.
I think it'll do great because it's getting a lot of love since those years. You know? I wonder why it didn't do so well.
Is that the one with all the fairies and like the nerd tribal?
Yeah. Yeah, Spice 8-Rack did a really good video about it. I don't know if you've seen that, but he did a big dive into the sub-niche of art direction in Europe that most of Lorwyn's designs drew from.
I think Lorwyn's going to have his Neon Dynasty look.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Oh, Neon Dynasty is my favorite set in the last while. Like, so do you still have your old Duel Masters collection?
I was kind of a dramatic teenager. So I kind of
He's still dramatic.
Most of my cards. Basically, yeah, when it was canceled.
Yeah, you would have made a bonfire in your front yard, right? And
Something.
they're in the pile naked, whatever.
You charged your fire.
It didn't burn well, so then we just kind of threw them away. I did try. And I do regret it though. I do regret it. I wish I wasn't so dramatic.
I kept all of my stuff for quite a while, but then a few years ago, someone mentioned to me, I forget who, it might have been my cousin Dustin, actually that Duel Masters had a pretty rich secondary market. So I looked into selling the cards, and I got like a really good offer for selling basically my entire collection.
Yeah.
That's what I did. They had mostly been sitting in a box in the basement for a decade. So I don't feel too bad about selling them, but I did want to keep my winning deck for at least something to remember the good times. But I sold most of the cards, and they're probably in a better spot now with someone who actually looks at them and uses them.
Did you end up parting with the trophy as well?
I did. It was a little bit of a rinky-dinky trophy. If it had been a nicer trophy, I might have been more inclined to keep it.
I'm happy that you were able to do that. Because even like rares, not like very rares, not super rares, just rares from the later sets were like worth between $40 and $80 a piece.
Did you play Kaijudo? Like, the Rihu?
So here's the thing about Kaijudo. I did not play it, but I certainly would have. I didn't know it was actually a Duel Masters game.
Okay.
I know it was Rise of the Duel Masters, but I literally thought they were infringing on the copyright.
Okay.
I literally thought Duel Masters was like had failed so hard in America that Wizards was like, yeah, we don't care if you call it Rise of the Duel Masters. Like, did you?
I have some starter decks from it, but not really.
Yeah.
I think I played it like once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it is Duel Masters.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's a cheap way to play. They did in Duel Masters in Japan, they have some cards that are like from Kaijudo.
Oh, okay.
But they did a whole series, and like apparently the series dives into non-traditional families, class differences, how power corrupts, like really deep topics for a show. It just kind of flopped because it was on the Hub, which was like a Hasbro channel that you needed special cable for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you like Transformers and you have the Hub channel, they constantly play like the Transformers movies on that. Did you ever play like the GBA or PS2 game?
I did. Did you?
I think I played the Game Boy Advance game, yeah.
I really like those as a way to preserve the card game, because the card pool like represents like sets 1 through 3 in the first one, and like it preserves that period of the card game in a way that like future generations could ROM hack. On a wider scale, how do you feel about the intersection of maintaining intellectual property and discontinuing play experiences? For example, like that can apply to card games and how card games, formats change, decks stop becoming viable because new cards come out, or it can be something like the discontinuation of a card game, or like for years you couldn't play Halo 2 online because the original Xbox Live was shut down. It wasn't until they later released the Master Chief Collection and you could play it online. How do you feel about that in relation to intellectual property?
This question's a little bit more sophisticated than the other questions. I guess my answer would be, I really enjoyed playing World of Warcraft Classic, and I was really glad to see that Blizzard identified that after many years of sort of rogue pirate versions of Classic existing, identified there's like a demand for this and like formally supporting it. So I think if you illegally played Vanilla WoW before it was released, and that's fine and cool and good. I also think it's good and cool that Blizzard then decided like let's like formally recreate WoW Classic.
No comment. No thoughts.
Yeah,
it's a trickier question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like if there isn't a legal way that I can pay someone money to play this game, or if it's extortionately expensive, like thousands of dollars, I don't think emulating is the worst thing on the planet. It would be great if there were systems in place where companies could put things out there for free and then see what kind of interest there is and then pull the plug and offer a paid experience, kind of like the private servers. There wasn't a way to play those classic servers, get that classic WoW experience. People found a way. And without bringing the hammer down too hard beyond a cease and desist, I think a company saying, okay, this is our intellectual property and we love that you love it. Here's what we're going to do. And also you can't keep doing this thing that infringes on our property. I think it's a good balance.
Did you hear about that Bionicles band game that got canceled? My friend is really big into Bionicles. He's a millennial, he grew up with it. He's really disappointed.
Yeah, Lego they had a poll where it's like, it's our 90th anniversary. What from the Lego catalog do you want us to do a little set for? And Bionicles won overwhelmingly. And they're like, we don't have the mold printers, sorry. And then for 8 years, this game called Masks of Power, which was on Unreal Engine 5, super crisp, super awesome, was in development, and it was officially approved by Lego as a nonprofit fan game. They got like the original announcer from the Bionicle commercials to narrate the commercial. They got a couple bands who had music that was featured in Bionicle commercials to make songs to promote the game. And in the last couple weeks, Lego just out of nowhere DMCA'd it, and it's all gone now.
My cold theory for my friend was that Lego was gonna do something with Bionicles in the future.
They should, but Bionicles also was discontinued and had a second run that also failed, kind of like Duel Masters. But Bionicle was way bigger than Duel Masters. Bring back Bonkles. Bonkles Universes Beyond. Can you imagine in Fortnite if you could play as Tahu with a gun? Like, come on. They could like break into pieces when they die. Is there anything else you'd like people to know about Duel Masters that like you find you're explaining to people, and like common misconceptions and stuff?
It was really fun to play random people you meet online over like AOL.
Yeah, it's like we would type like what card we were playing, like which band that we put down.
Yeah, no camera, just purely the live chat with some random person usually.
Yes.
You had to have a lot of high trust. And then there were certain players where like after you played them a few times, and every time they have like 3 awesome shield breaker, you're like, okay, maybe I should stop playing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I liked a lot was because it was so simple and clean and like self-contained, there's no dice or like pen and paper. My parents played it with me like way more willingly and like had fun and were able to understand it. You could have a short, quick, easy game of Duel Masters, and we could play like every night. And I really liked that about the game, like how it was just so simple, but so obviously a lot of depth.
I love that there's no need for external trackers with that.
Right.
Like no need for a dice that represents a 1/1 counter or anything.
I do like how the shield system. I'm not sure if Duel Masters is the first ever like system that I've ever used it. You know, like a lot of Japanese games just use it now.
Yeah.
Ujibon or One Piece.
Yeah, and it's like an inverse of Pokemon, where if one of your Pokemon faints, your opponent gets a card.
Yes, you get rewarding for winning in Pokemon.
Yeah.
But then these other games at Duel Masters, you might get some kind of advantage for the end losing it.
Absolutely, yeah. I love how like it's like, yeah, you give your opponent card advantage if you're too aggressive, so you have to time when you're going to be all in.
The deck I used to win by invite to the first championship was, I think, a 4-color control deck, but it had the Cryptic Totem, which was the guy that once you tapped him, your opponent's shield triggers didn't go off.
Yeah.
And like, even before he came out, though, I remember playing control decks and like not attacking them when I could, and that was a huge revelation to me. It's like, wait, if I keep attacking this aggro guys, he's gonna like fill back up. So I would wait until I could critical mass them. And then Cryptic Total came out. I made that strategy even better or easier. That was a really cool dynamic around like, I'll just starve him out, kill his stuff, and wait until I can kill him with a big shot.
That I was playing all fire, you know?
Yeah.
Playing versus like 1 drops that 1,000 power guy that would have to attack every turn.
Yeah, Deadly Fighter Braid Claw. Yeah.
I could never beat that deck.
That card is still played.
The Deadly Fighter Breakline.
Yeah.
Another very iconic card, I think, from that time. I used to have the jankiest control decks, though. I don't know what was going on in my mind, but I think the deck size is like 40, right?
Yeah.
But I would have like 60, 70 card decks, right?
Yeah.
So I was just like,
It's thick.
Yeah.
I want all the black hand discard spells. I want all the blue I draw. Let's get some green land acceleration. I had some sense, but I was like, I probably could have used some optimal lists, probably.
Do you remember the name of this deck? You had a very funny name for your deck.
Yeah, I might have been called Psychotic Ninja Mime the Fury.
I think so. I've got it right here. Can you tell us about that? Was that just...
I remember looking at, because I would also follow Magic the Gathering tournament coverage when there was like written coverage, which I used to love. They don't really have that anymore, I don't think.
RIP Channel Fireball.
I remember following that and like looking at deck list names, and they were always so like, they like describe the archetype, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And I was like 10 or 11 years old. I'm like, I'm gonna be way more cool and funny. I'm not gonna describe. I'm not gonna say Rug Bomb Bazaar. So I just remember thinking like, I need a more interesting name.
Yeah, and in Pauper, which is the format I play a lot, which is Commons Only Magic for anyone listening. People are trying to come up with better names. So like Affinity is now like Happy Robots and stuff. Also, did y'all know that the original Duel Masters manga was actually a Magic the Gathering manga? So for 1,200 pages of the manga, 6 volumes, they're playing Magic the Gathering. Shobu really liked slivers and would always cast Muscle Sliver.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I only just learned this, and I have been hyper fixated on Duel Masters for the last year. But yeah, before Duel Masters, the card game, there was an ongoing manga where they played Magic, and they just all of a sudden started playing a new game called Duel Masters. But in 2019, they did a volume where Shobu went back and played Duel Masters with like Kojuko or whoever, who was one of the first guys Shobu played. Yeah, Kokujo, yeah. Is there anything else you'd like people to know about how games have impacted you existentially and vocationally? I mean, obviously you're both still sitting here, friends and connected, having played all these years ago.
Yeah, I guess similar to the other question around like how the game helped me in my career. I think for the most part, Duel Masters or WoW, mostly WoW probably. We're mostly like an outlet for like learning social skills and like making friends.
You got me in a world of work, man.
Go to Fluids. What are some more Duel Masters memories? I really like Pyrofighter Magnus. That's kind of my favorite.
You got to bounce back to your hands.
Yeah. And it has Modern Horizons 1 has I forgot what the lizards are called in Magic, but it has a haste trampler 3/3 that goes back to your hand for free hand.
So here's how I met them. We were paired up at a 5 Zips tournament. I think at the next tournament I saw him, I was playing Dragon deck. His Dragon just came out. Like there's a big Dragon set, Duel Masters. So I built it. And then we met in the finals and it was E121. It was my favorite Duel Masters memory because I was so close to defeating this guy that's crushed me 4-0, you know?
Yeah. You made it to the finals and you got to play your friend.
The finals, that tournament of 25 or 30 people.
Yeah.
It was the accomplishment, but like in hindsight, it's funny to think back on those tournaments and like even for like the biggest tournament in Minnesota, it was a pretty small tournament.
And that's saying a lot because Minnesota, especially during the early 2000s, was like a state that had a pretty high turnout for most card games. When you bring it up with people, are they like, oh yeah, Master Duel or Duel Monsters with Yu-Gi-Oh?
I find that most people, not that it comes up that often, but almost no one remembers it or remembers the card game or the show. So I had told some people, I was like, oh, I got this note about Duel Masters, and the guys my age and they had no idea what you're talking about. When they know Yu-Gi-Oh and they know Magic the Gathering, but I don't know if the show wasn't good enough to become like a cultural touchstone, or maybe they was like oversaturated and Yu-Gi-Oh kind of beat them to the scene. Probably that's probably it.
It's kind of buff.
I think the show had like some pretty bad jokes. It didn't take itself too seriously.
It has a bridged energy. Also, in the first season, there's some animations where like the character does its animation, because whenever a monster came out, they had these cool 3D CGI animations, but the character like does its animation. And then it's like standing there in an idle state for a couple seconds. A lot of bullshit puns where they use bullshack instead. So then I said, that's bullshack.
I think the really dramatic, serious nature of Yu-Gi-Oh like played better to the crowd. Like kids wanted to have the discs and like and like you know like there were a lot of dramatic kids like Rachel who like really got into taking it too seriously.
I once did a D&D campaign that was on Duelist Islands, and we actually played the cards against each other. And I feel that Magic, you can make a Duel Masters or a Magic campaign where you actually play it as a part of the campaign. But yeah, the Duel Masters show, another thing that didn't work in its favor compared to Yu-Gi-Oh was on WB, which was free and directed towards kids. Duel Masters was on Toonami. So it wasn't even, for a while, it wasn't even on Cartoon Network proper. It was this kids anime on Toonami. So anyone on Toonami was like, I don't want to watch this. Like, but that's the sad thing is like, if you go on Wizards websites, you can't find anything about Duel Masters anymore. It's just like all erased except for like an ongoing wiki and a movement to preserve it digitally. Just being able to accept when a game is like, has a couple of dry years, that doesn't necessarily mean in the long run it's going to suffer. Like Pokemon, it's had some really awful years for the TCG, and most people would give their kneecaps to be at the helm of Pokemon now that it's won. It's survivorship bias. So Wizards, Universes Beyond, Duel Masters. What would you want to see in a Universes Beyond Duel Masters? Yeah, a true one.
Was it Corile? Was that the blue creature at 5 mana, 2,000, put it on the top of your deck?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite control cards.
Yeah.
At Locomotiver was another really funny control card.
Yeah.
The Angry Engine, 4 mana, 1,000, shield trigger, the discard card.
Yeah. I love that card. Yeah, so in Duel Masters, there aren't instants. So, but sometimes when you take damage, if your shield was a card, you can cast it for free as an instant. And that and Aqua Surfer are just so sick. They're good.
Crazy tempo.
Yeah.
Switch if they burst an Aqua Surfer.
Yeah. The Aqua Surfer was either a 5 or it was a 6 mana 2/2 basically blue spell creature. But if you took damage, you could cast it for free and it bounced a creature to a hand when it was cast. And there's some subformats that's like Duel Masters set 1 through 5. Coral is banned to Kingdom Come and those formats.
It was probably one of the most annoying like blue power. I mean, you don't have counterspell and Duel Masters obviously, but a similar kind of vibe of just being annoying.
Jason was the last year.
Yeah, Jace, Bolus, and now the one angel, is it Seraph Angel, the one that had vigilance early on? Sarah Angel. Black Lotus, Emrakul. They keep printing magic cards in Duel Masters.
I remember the last sets before it got canceled. I think I was slightly annoyed by like complexity creep. I don't know, like I'm foggy memory, but I feel like it was kind of slightly drifting away from the original simplicity. I don't have specifics, but I remember thinking, oh, this game's getting a little funkier. I don't know.
Yeah, like when those dual color or dual type cards came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like their first Ravnica. And yeah, they only were able to release the allied color cards. Like, because the next set after cancellation was enemy colors, like black and white and stuff. Yeah.
Missed out.
Yeah. And to this day, the dual colored cards always enter tap for mana. Like,
Nice.
it's not like Magic where there's like conditions where you can have it enter on tap. It's more like there's conditions where you can instantaneously have it evolve onto something.
I remember thinking light was always underpowered. I don't know if that was true or not, but I don't think I ever played any like light decks. They never seemed good to me.
These days, the card advantage makes it a good secondary color. There's a lot of good card draw in white.
There was Holy Awe, that 6 mana tap all their stuff.
Yeah, that would blow out.
I remember that card because one game I lost because in the tournament, because they Holy Awed my second Bombazar turn. So I lost because they tapped all my stuff.
Oh, and Bombazar, if you don't win on the second turn, you lose.
Right, exactly. So the first tournament, the first North American Championship, it was split by adults and kids. And then once the adult and the kid won, they also had like I think a Japanese champion there. And he was like a little kid. And like they were like stands set up, like watched as the North American champion faced this Japanese, who I think was the Japanese champion. That was really cool. But in the second championship, it was just one. They had were combined, much less fanfare, much fewer decorations, and they didn't fly in like the Japanese champion challenge you.
So you won it.
Yes, but then I get a chance to go, defend my title against the Japanese champion.
They'll have to do it again.
Right. I'll come out of retirement for one last game.
Be good to each other. It's so easy to be mean, and power comes from restraint. The world is hard. Don't make it harder for other people. Just be good to each other. Enjoy whatever game you love, but consider checking out Duel Masters. I've found that as the more I play TCGs, the more I just, in casual experiences, try out other ones like Yu-Gi-Oh! The more I learn a thing or two about what I love. You have any other closing remarks?
Localize that app.
Yeah. What's an app?
Oh, that app.
Oh, that app.
That
Yeah.
app you're talking about, the Duel Masters.
Yeah, literally. If you want to do a crowd test for Duel Masters, just translate it and localize it. Just see how it go. I'm sure it would do great. Like, anything from you, Ben?
Support your local game store if you have one.
Yeah.
Buy snacks from them when you go there, things like that.
Yeah. I like to just go up and say, what's the best thing I can buy to support y'all? And they'll usually say singles.
Yeah. I bought so many sleeves back in the day. Like
Yeah.
on my local store, Jimmy Jam's probably like, half the revenue was from me buying so many different colored sleeves and really artistic sleeves, but then also the clear sleeves. I remember my mom at one point was like, "You can't buy any. You'd have."
Yeah.
I would play so much that they get dirty and they get a little grime on them. So.
Yeah, or they like the corners ruined.
Sleeves there are so much better than your deck.
Yeah. That's also why a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards are worth more if they're in better conditions, because so many people didn't have sleeves.
It kind of became more popular in like 2000s or something.
Yeah, Dragon Shield rocks. Well, thank you so much for giving me some time today. Feel free to subscribe and like the channel and comment. Commenting does the most to help the channel if you want this to be more visible. But otherwise, have a great day.
One last thing, I want to say thank you to all 7 of my Patreon subscribers. I would not have finished this if it weren't for your encouragement. You guys rock.